Welcome to the OC. I'm Phil. This is my co-host Corey, and we're back.
Back, baby.
We're back, baby. It's been a break. How long has it been?
I want to say our last was Roanoke. The 2 times we had to record Roanoke.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was summer last year, 2022.
2022. Yeah, so it hasn't been that long, but we did take a little hiatus, a little break. Both of us are quite busy, and
you more so than me, my friend.
Yeah, you're a busy guy. You got an important job.
But my stuff is more predictable. I can plan around it. Yours is less so.
It has. Yeah. So, and tonight we're going to talk about COVID. We're going to revisit COVID because we thought that was our first podcast. Why not bring it up and do a revisit now that we're kind of back to a quasi-normal world.
Quasi-normal. I love that term, quasi-normal. It's not quite normal, but it's almost normal.
Yeah, I mean we're getting there. So I think that's a great first episode.
Well, it's a way to return, right? Like I think I called it COVID the return. If I was designing the return, the poster for this, it would be like the Cocoon the Return, and then we'd have Wilford Brimley up there.
Oh yeah, saying check for diabetes. Check your diabetes there, everybody.
Right.
Yeah,
eat your Quaker oatmeal.
Well, how do you feel after COVID? Like, I mean, like, is everything back to normal for you? Has anything,
What? Okay, so this is the problem. What is normal now, right? So, like, I was recently in Europe. No problem getting to airports. But you see, the funny thing is, you'll see the vestiges of all this stuff, right? So when I was in Spain, it's like, oh, hey, you've got to wear a mask in public transit, and that's the message. Would you like to know the percentage of people that were actually doing it? Like, I felt dumb when I put my mask on to follow the rules, and I'm like, nobody else's.
Yeah, he's not from here.
Yeah, exactly. You can clearly
you don't belong. You're not You're not a Spaniard.
Fun fact: Toledo is surprisingly, for a tourist area, is surprisingly not very English.
Oh yeah, well, probably. Yeah, I think anywhere you start to get, out of the main drag or the main commercial areas of any country.
I was in the commercial area. It's Toledo. It's like tourism central.
Yeah, but there's got to be parts of Toledo that are predominantly, English speaking individuals. Maybe you were just in that part.
My hotel, my international hotel.
Are you in the East End?
The East End. Yeah, that's right. East End of Ottawa. Yeah.
It's like, don't be in the East End of any city for very long. If you live in the East End of a city, I apologize. But yeah, no, it's dangerous.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have to worry too much about that. But the normalness is like air travel. It was fine. I mean, they weren't doing temperature checks. They weren't requiring any COVID pod because they realized, I think, that a lot of the measures they took were done more out of fear and didn't work. And by the way, created massive other problems.
For sure. Yeah, like, I mean, I was working, to give you an example of how like the temperature thing doesn't work. I run hot, man. Big dude, I run hot.
You're a warm guy.
I'm a warm guy. I'm like outside. So we were doing some work at this facility. It was like a healthcare facility, and it was like 30 degrees outside. But we did some work outside, and then we had to go inside. And the at the front, you had to go through this little fucking kiosk thing and they had to take your temperature. And I'm thinking, I said to the lady before, I'm like, I'm going to show that I have a temperature because I was just outside. And I'm like pouring sweat. She's like, and I did. I was like 38 degrees. I'm like, I'm a 260-pound man working in 30-degree weather. My moisture content and heat content right now are through the roof, lady. And she let me in.
Oil in it. Yeah, there we go. So it worked. So the system works.
Yeah. But that's, I mean, there's some people just run hot, man.
You know what they say? You know how you tell the difference between an oral and a rectal thermometer, right?
Oh, one tastes different, I'm sure.
One tastes different. And I'm surprised you didn't say, well, sir, we can get a more accurate reading.
Yeah, hold on a moment.
Hold on a minute. Here, you got plumber's crack. You got plumber's crack. I'm just going to drop that sucker down there with a little fishing line and just.
It's a little, no, I don't. Just you're going to feel some discomfort.
Discomfort
for a moment. Just spread your cheeks and yeah. Okay. Grab this
Never
bar.
good. Never good when a stranger says that to you. You're gonna feel some discomfort here.
Listen, things are gonna get awkward real fast.
Buy me lunch.
Yeah, buy me lunch first. But yeah, like there were so many things that were put in place that you're just like, but then you have China. Look at China now.
The plexiglass screens are still there. That's the thing I'm a little surprised with. Maybe not. I guess you already made the investment, so why get rid of the screens?
Yeah. Well, I know for my one business, it's like, yeah, why take them down? You don't want people coughing on you, and it's kind of gross and
it's kind of disgusting. So
our vet still is not seeing people. You cannot they come outside, grab your animal, and bring it inside. You don't go in. Yep, you pay outside, you do everything outside. And I think a lot of businesses have went, hey, if we remove the customer, the interaction with the customer from the process, it makes our lives a lot easier. Like in terms of like a vet or
look at all the kiosks now. Go to Loblaws. It's all like, and I think this pandemic, aside from the way they considered the frontline workers to be essential / disposable.
Well, that's of course.
I mean, the kiosk didn't get sick.
No, and that's the other thing is that everyone was so important, and then all of a sudden, you're not that important anymore. We don't care. We don't care what you did. We don't care that you invested 2 years of your life into something that, while the rest of us were kind of kicking back, you're still, in the trenches. Who cares?
I have to go in 2 days a week. Come on.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I laugh. I'm talking to Melissa. She's like, he's only working 2 days. I said, no. I go into the office 2 days a week. I am not only working 2 days.
That's a misnomer, right? Like,
yes.
In fact, like my wife is working from home, and I think she actually works more because she doesn't really she's working on things at like 8:00 at night. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Put that down.
And put it in a different room. So that's what I had to do. I had to actually move like my, here where the recording studio / my study, all my cool stuff's here. I had my work laptop here. And I realized when I'm, checking emails and doing document review at 9:00 at night, I'm like, wait a second here.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And so I think, the reverse of that is true for some people too, where it's like, oh, I've got all my cool things here.
Shiny distraction.
Shiny, I like that. That's nice. But yeah, like I would be horrible at working at home. I'm like squirrel. Like that's me. I'm easily distracted. I have to hyper focus on things and would not be good at it. But that's just me. But I think it's changed the face of business. And more so in like what you do, like in the government sort of end of things, right?
Well, any knowledge job now, for example, realistically can be done 100% remote. I mean, for reasons.
Yeah, now, for sure.
But you look at the struggles that are going on. So when you talk about the new quasi-normal, you've got these hybrid work environments, and now that do you remember quiet quitting?
Oh yeah. People just waited to get fired. Where's Jim? Jim's showing up on our meeting schedule, but Jim's not working.
But now you're seeing, because of the recession fears, that now guess what? Now the power is back with the businesses, and they're like, well, we're laying off tens of thousands of people. So do you want to be in the office? I mean, I think Musk, what did Musk say? If you want to work remotely, you can go pretend to work somewhere else.
And he's not wrong, but you're getting people.
Well, he's not right either. That's the problem. He's the old school sleep at work, put your 80 hours in. If you put in your 80 hours, then you can work remotely. After 80 hours, you can work remotely.
I think what you find though is that, at a certain, and I hate to say it, but like the younger generation think that, well, if I can squeeze in a few solid hours of work, and then the rest is play, right? So I don't know. I think that working from home, like my wife can do everything she did before virtually. Look what we're doing right now. There's no.
This is tiring though. The contact. So myself personally, meetings over virtual is so hard because
Yeah.
I'm very much I read nonverbal and I'm trying to engage. And when you have multiple people in the thing, you're trying to figure out who. Now it's only the two of us now, so it's not too bad. But
Just the two of us, you and I. Yeah, that's a great song. Yeah, no, I
who
totally agree.
who sings it?
What was it? I can't remember who sang it. It's just the two of us.
Let's keep it that way.
And I. Yeah, you were gonna say let him sing it.
Let's keep it that way. Yeah, I was trying. You ruined my joke because of your ignorance. Thanks, Phil.
Listen, I'm a terrible singer because I choose to be.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. No, well, yeah, back to like Musk. Like, I mean, this guy is like, well, I'm a billionaire and I work like 200 hours a week. Wait, is there even 200 hours in the week? What? Yeah, no, but you got to understand, and this is in business too, like people who work for you, they're doing their best, but they're not benefiting like you are. So, you know,
aside from continued employment, but you're right, they're not necessarily
like continued
they put
employment.
their money in, they put their time in. It's not like, oh, guess what? Well,
yeah,
your 10% share of the business is now worth more. Well, no, it's like,
no, it's like
get a raise.
Yeah, you work hard. Like there's no incentive to work harder if you're, you know, like this is what you're going to make no matter how hard you work, right? And that to me is where we're at with the young, like any generation. I mean, you know, you have this is the wall, right? Like when you work for yourself, there is no wall. If you work harder, you make more money, you know, or you have more benefits. But yeah, I don't know if COVID so much changed that. That's just a
So
human nature thing, right?
This is it, right? So the whole idea of the 5-day work week is now a 4-day work week. Now you've got like there's a bunch of stuff. The what is work is changing. That's and working harder doesn't necessarily get you further ahead. I remember like my dad, for example, would hustle his butt off.
For sure.
And no, I mean, mind you, I'm thinking if he didn't do that, I don't know where we would have been. But the whole idea of like
homeless.
There's probably a good or something like that, right? But it's that idea that you can, like, there is an element of the working smarter. And that's where I remember reading some of the reasons they said, well, lazy people, you know, tend to be the innovators when it comes to this stuff because they don't want to, you know, lift those rocks. So they're like, well, hey, wait a second. How can I make this easier on myself? And then that way they don't necessarily, but the follow on is they don't necessarily say, okay, now I've freed up my time to do this work. Now, what am I doing with it? Am I working? Now, if you're an entrepreneur like your business, you would say, now that I've made this more efficient, I can devote my energies towards this other aspect.
That tends to be the whole reason why you become more efficient. You're like, oh my God, we bottleneck. So like, and I'm feeling that right now. There's too much work to efficiently do everything. And then there's still more coming. And you're like, okay, well, how do I figure this out? Because by nature, I'm a lazy person. I'm not an Elon Musk. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to work harder. I know I have to work, but I want it to be so much simpler.
Easy, right?
Easy. I like easy. I mean, I understand that there's hard paths you have to take in order to get to easy. No, I think that's the little secret that I've learned over the years is, okay, I'm going to work really, really hard at this so it becomes easy. And but back to COVID.
I was going to say, we have completely So
we're back to talking about ourselves.
Okay, so let's get to the meaty part that people want to hear about.
Sure.
What about some of the conspiracies we talked about originally, and where are we at with the conspiracy? You know, whatever.
Well, the one
network.
Well, also, I mean, the one that I love the best is that people are. I don't even know. Granted, I don't even know if this is true because we have no metrics to even remotely determine these things like that. Like right now, there's a big thing going on that the people are experiencing from the vaccine long-term disability, right? Like they're experiencing or death. So that or death,
which is a form of a long-term disability, in that it's a disability that remains with you long-term because you're dead.
Well, yeah, or that, but you know, like long-term, like
adverse long-term effects,
right,
including death.
and including death. But the tough part of that is, well, how do you prove that is true, right? Like the companies that actually know what is in the vaccine are the only ones that could actually do the studies probably to determine these things. And we don't have any numbers, so people are dying, and it's like, well, he died of the vaccine. Well, we don't have any information to actually prove that.
So that brings in, so there's two conspiracies that are new.
Oh, okay.
Over what we originally. So when we originally, back in the day, when like some of the stuff we covered was the whole 5G, right?
Oh,
5G, yeah. Which that not surprisingly is just as relevant now as it was then, ergo 5G. Not.
Yeah, I mean,
the Wuhan one, right? The pandemic. Okay.
Yeah.
The Great Reset, all those ones. So some of the newer ones, and they tend to be a bit more focused. So one of the newer ones relates exactly what you're talking about. Have you heard about the Canadian doctor conspiracy?
No.
Okay, so
this must be a good one because I haven't heard about it.
This is the one where basically they say there's, something like 80 Canadian doctors have all died from the vaccine.
Oh.
Like, meaning, now, mind you, the number sounds really small, but again, it's a sort of focused group.
It's a very focused group. Yeah.
Basically,
if I'm a doctor, I'm like, God damn.
That's right. This is essentially that, they died suddenly, Canadian doctors, and they're just dropping dead.
They also live, lifestyles where they go skiing and yachting and sailing. And
so this is where, when you hear the whole idea, like somebody says, there's a bunch of doctors died, and the only thing they all had in common was they were Canadian doctors and they all got vaccinated. Okay. And they died suddenly, mysteriously, of, whatever. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and they got a list. Now the cool part about this is they actually have like names and pictures.
Oh, they have. Oh, really?
Yeah. Wow. So somebody went to the effort of collecting some information and saying, so what other people have done is said, okay, well, let's look into these cases. And it's like,
I know they're all young. Are they young?
Youngish. I mean, are we young, Phil?
No, I think we're middle. Well, we'd be middle-aged.
We're middle-aged. We've been middle-aged for the last little bit. So, but
yeah,
that idea of these aren't people in their 80s dying of the vaccine. And they aren't even really dying of the vaccine. So, for example, Global TV or Global News went off and did and said, okay, well, let's contact the families. And they're like, he died in a skiing accident.
Oh, there you go.
He died of a heart attack.
Yeah. High stress job.
Cancer that he, after an unfair battle with lung cancer, that, by the way, he had before the vaccine.
For sure.
But this starts to, I start saying, well, there was all those Canadian doctors. It was the vaccine that killed them. And
it just spreads like wildfire.
Exactly. Because we want it to spread like wildfire.
Of course. That's human nature. I mean, why do you think people watch the Kardashians?
I don't watch the Kardashians.
I don't either. But they do make billions of dollars because it's interesting, right?
Well,
what's the new rumor?
Well, exactly, right? Oh my God, what are the rich and decadent up to today? They're so bad.
Well, but doctors, and by nature, I mean, they're human beings, and they have high stress jobs. I mean, let's face it. You make lots of money, but like that is a high stress job. You're dealing with like people at their worst, dying.
Exactly.
This is, I think, like my family doctor forever. He was like 55 when he died. Like, he was young. He had and he had a heart attack. He had something.
Was he vaccinated?
Well, he died long before.
But
COVID.
Was he vaccinated?
Probably.
He probably vaccinated.
He was probably inoculated in some
with something. With something.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't want smallpox or polio, I mean, you fucking get.
If you're not good with measles.
Yeah, the anti-vax seems to be. And that's where we get back to like, okay, now we're back to now we're doing, seasonal COVID vaccinations, which I'm not doing. I've had 2. I did what I feel.
I've got 3. I've had.
Did you get the booster?
Well, I got the booster back last year sometime. I actually
Yeah.
had gotten COVID in
I had
October,
COVID. So
before my trip. So before my trip, I was going to go get my 4th boost. So I'm like, well, I'm traveling internationally. I probably should get boosted. And then I'm like, oh, I got COVID. And I'm doing the research, and they're like, if you get it, they say like 3 to 6 months before your booster. So I'm like, okay, so I don't need to get it. And the current one, they did a cautionary, hey, increased risk in the 65 set of strokes.
Wonderful. So I think I'll take my chances with the sniffles that I had. COVID for me was not so. There's a great thing we can talk. I had COVID. You had COVID.
I had COVID. Yep.
How was your COVID experience?
It was, a day of not feeling great, but I mean, no, I did. I imagine I had a fever because I had some pretty wicked dreams.
Oh, dude, tell.
No, they were just weird. It was like one of those art house films on acid sort of things. Ooh, and I
hate those.
The worst part about it is I remember I'm sitting there sleeping. This was and I was sick during Truth and Reconciliation Day, so I spent the day listening to CBC or something talk about it. And I was like trying to make connections, because that's the way my mind works analytically. I'm trying to understand or figure out what exactly it is that I'm consuming in my brain. I wasn't immobilized. I wasn't on the edge of life. You have a lot of the core morbidities, my friend.
Thank you, I guess. Based on my, believe it or not, I am quite healthy. Much to my doctor's surprise.
Much to your doctor. Healthy. Too healthy. Like Peter Griffin. I'm too healthy. You said I'm too healthy.
Yeah. Like my resting heartbeat is like 60 beats a minute.
Oh, wow. Okay. Never mind. I know. Yeah.
My doctor, anytime
what's your cholesterol like, and your blood pressure?
Good. My blood pressure is 120/80. Like I know the face you just made is the same face my doctor makes. Let's do this again.
That's right. My tools must be broke.
This is not okay. Nurse, give me another cuff. I know.
You're just peeing this cup.
Hey, just because you're chubby does not mean that you're unhealthy.
But
anyway,
carrying extra weight is a core morbidity, right?
It is. I'm overweight for sure. But what happened with me was it was in the early stages. Like, well, when did I have COVID? About a year ago. So
Omicron.
Yeah, and
Kraken's the latest hotness.
The Kraken, not Kraken. The Kraken.
The Kraken. And it's funny with the Kraken, they've gone off. Now it's the unofficial name, because all the other ones have been named after like the Greek alphabet, like Alpha, Beta, Omicron, Delta, blah 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 blah.
So original. Oh yeah. Well,
I interrupted your.
It's nothing. It's nothing. Fancy. So I ended up kind of sick. Everyone in the house got it. So I was like, fuck, I'm going to get it. So I got it. And at that time it was to take a week off. So I was like, oh my God, I got to take a week off of work, because it was 5 days. Yeah. If you got it, you contracted it, you had to be off work for 5 days. And so I did, but I had sniffles and a little bit of a dry throat. Like nothing. I could have went to work. I've went to work with feeling like
that's part of the problem, by the way, is a lot of people go off and get the hero bit. Now, if it's your own business and
well, I have people that work with me, and I'm like, I don't want to make them sick. I didn't want to give them COVID, because maybe my experience, like the worst one in the house, because when we all, my wife didn't get sick at all. We all had COVID. She was around all of us, never got COVID. And
she didn't get COVID or didn't have symptoms.
She tested and there was nothing. So we all tested.
Same thing. Never got it.
Yeah. Well, and she did get COVID though.
Melissa's never gotten it. And you'd like this. Now, mind you, the protocols, when one of us is sick, I get to sleep in the dog bed.
Oh, nice. If it's anything like my house, they're very comfortable.
She was sick. She's gotten sick, like the flu and that. But she's never gotten COVID, because she's came down. We got a stack of tests downstairs.
It's amazing though now, like when you see, like we do swim tournaments with Jacks, right? So we just went to one, and it's funny, like you see like a whole whack of people. Like out of 150 people sitting there watching, you got 2 people wearing masks. And it's like, you understand that doesn't help. You're doing a great thing for everybody else, but you're not doing
unless you're wearing the actual N95 mask or a respirator. All you're doing is you're helping everybody else, which again, if everybody did, works great.
Yeah, it's an all or nothing thing. But I'm tired of masks. I mean, and I think everybody else is too. I love that I don't have to wear a mask in public. I am that, like, I do it if I was told to, but I think out of all of this, masks were like, oh my God. And really, did they do anything? I don't know. I mean, let's
it was something they could do. So this is so when you look at a lot of the measures that were taken, right? And
Yeah.
this is, you know, some of it I do think we're on like the government overreach, but if there's one thing that we know as a society, it's that fear causes us to do stuff.
Yeah, it does.
Right? We give up all sorts of things out of fear.
Look at Nazi Germany, not to bring up Nazis again, but every podcast we do.
That's right. Great. We're going to be, but now this is why we don't have any German viewers or listeners.
Oh, poor Germans. I'm sorry. You've come so far. You've come so far from your Holocaust days. You can't, I'm sorry. I don't know. But you're not wrong, right? Like, you know, if we can do something, do it. And I did. You know, I wasn't going to be that guy that I have what do they call it? I can't even remember what the name is now. I'm exempt. It's like,
I got my card myself, printed card saying,
yeah, I am exempt from being human. I don't know, whatever.
See, what always killed me was the mandates aspect, right? Like I think government needs to be very careful when they use their power. But if I'm a private business and I say, listen, you need to have pants on, socks on, and a mask on. Yeah. And if I say, you know, you can't come in without those, then, you know, you take your business elsewhere and I lose out. If I'm unreasonable with what I'm asking you to do, and, you know,
yeah. At the beginning, we had people who, you know, they were like, because I had to deal with this, right? Like we had people that came in and they were like, I'm not wearing a mask. And we're like, okay, we'll go outside and we'll talk to you outside. And they were like, oh. But no one, you know, never came to fisticuffs. It was like,
how big are you, Phil? Just out of curiosity.
Oh yeah, it's not that, but
because you're the person. You're not the person. I would go off like, how dare you inflicted my freedoms by making me wear a mask? I'm going to fight you. I'm like, no.
It was never like,
yes, sir.
It wasn't like, you know, like get out, you know, put a fucking mask on. I was always like, listen, we have rules that are, you know, important that we have to follow and you have to abide by them. And, or if not, you go outside and we'll come out and talk to you, you know, and
there's
then
we gravitas to your presence, Phil. I've been in your, and I've seen you. I think in your mind, how that conversation played out was way nicer than how that person is like, oh shit, this guy's got, he's fingering the wrench.
I've got the screwdrivers in both hands.
That's right.
I mean, we try not to yeah, that's not good for business. For, you know, let's intimidate the customer. I mean, yeah, but the fact is that I went places and I'm like, okay, this is a pain in my ass, but I'm going to do it. You know, and you know, you want to be part of the team, and then eventually you get to the point where you're like, God damn it, I've been part of this team now for so long,
and we're losing. It's a terrible team.
Yeah, this team sucks. You know, I mean, I wasn't like freedom fighters there in Ottawa or anything, but I mean, I was getting to the point where I'm like, okay, like I've got the app on my phone to show you I'm vaccinated. You know, I've done the steps, you know, I've and then was it working? The numbers are still the same. The numbers are virtually the same.
What they would argue is they would say, so I was looking at some of the numbers for when we talk about,
there's not even real numbers anymore. So this is the other problem. There's no,
so do you know the numbers of deaths? So the cumulative,
off the top of my head, no, I don't.
The cumulative deaths worldwide now.
Worldwide, there was like, it's in the millions.
6,734,770. That's worldwide. Now, just to put things into perspective for you.
Yeah, like what did pneumonia do?
Well, so I've got
how about malaria?
I've got nothing where we compare some other. Now, mind you, the one numbers I have is like specific to the UK because it's probably, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Closer, but these numbers aren't accurate. because, for example,
Mhm.
like just to talk some things here, let's see. What is it? Observed case fatality ratio. So observed case fatality ratio is, hey, we have 10 cases reported, and out of those 10 cases, 2 people died,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So,
Right.
for example, Mexico has a 4.3. Okay. Canada has a, what do we have here? We have a 1.1. China has a 0.3.
Oh, that's going to change quite drastically.
Yeah. And this is actually current-ish. Now, this is where we talk about the numbers, right? So you always think the numbers game. And the
Oh
problem with
yeah,
the numbers game is,
no, they're skewed. Yeah.
because if you don't report, like India, what's India got? So India isn't even in the top 10, as far as I can see
Well,
here.
yeah, it's funny because when we did when I got COVID, I was like, all right, I wasn't sure. I had a negative test and then a positive test, and then I was like, okay. And I said to my wife, I said, well, because when the younger ones got it, I was like, let's take them maybe to the center, the COVID center, and get them actually
Yep.
So we called, and they're like, no, just stay at home. We don't.
Yep.
They were like, no, unless you have like you're dying, we don't want to see you. There's no. I mean, it wasn't that harsh, but it was certainly more like, yeah, we're really. You can bring
Well, it's like the numbers they
on.
were saying about with the hospitals, right? So one of the things
Yeah.
Ottawa got their hand slapped with, and Ontario, I guess as a whole, was they were reporting, people in hospital with COVID. Well, what they meant to say was people who were in hospital for something and have COVID versus those in hospital for COVID, right? So the numbers were skewed there. The total deaths, by the way, in the States was 1,999,866. That's the total deaths from COVID from the last couple of years.
Right. Yeah.
Which is still a massive number. Don't get me wrong. Like
a million people. Yeah.
A million people over 3 years is pretty bad.
The other problem with that million people is that a lot of those were on their deathbed to begin with, so that's the problem. If we look at the mortality rate in the age groups that these were, and I hate to say that I because people lost their loved ones, and and could COVID have been a factor? Sure.
So if you want to know, so I got some number from
okay. Let's hear
it. So it talks about deaths in England and Wales over a year. Okay. And it basically says from COVID up to, and this numbers go up to July 2020. So a little out of date. Okay. So 1 to 4 group, 3. So age group.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just picking random spots. 25 to 29, 49. 55 to 59, 1,430.
Mm-hmm.
80 to 84, 9,440.
Well, yeah.
So your chance of mortality of dying of it goes up dramatically. Now, you also see, like, because it breaks it down versus all causes, right? So it says, so in a year, we're looking at, like, they say COVID up to July was 49,000 deaths. Okay. Overall. Okay. In the UK, up to July 2020, of all things put together. Then they've got influenza in a bad year, and they've got like 2014, 15, and they say 27,000. So you're looking at, it's, kind of like twice as bad. I think
when you're frail,
yes,
you have you're old, you're frail, you probably have other underlying conditions that are, there.
Comorbidities.
Yeah. Like, okay, I think being old is a pretty substantial morbidity, right? I mean,
because like you said, you've got all these other factors. Now, it's not just, so do you remember what they originally called COVID? And the way they were calling it,
I don't want to say it. I'm not saying what they originally called it.
We're not talking the racist term. We're talking more the ageist term.
You mean like Trump? What do you call it? The kung fu flu.
The kung flu.
I'm like
the Wuhan flu. Like he called it. Like it was.
And I'm
that's
like,
not what I'm. No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Fucking Jesus Christ! You're leading them.
You just said, wait. Did you just say Trump was Jesus Christ? Oh my God, Phil, you're gonna get us. Damn, Phil.
Jesus Christ! What? The omnipotent one with that hairdo? I don't think so. I do not think so. No.
They called it boomer remover.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Do you remember
the fantastic term, because That's true.
It's actually somewhat accurate. But any of these generally, unless it's chlamydia or gonorrhea, it's generally more likely to affect the older generations, which we're actually getting. We're not boomers.
Surprised.
We are not boom. Yeah, I know. I heard there's a huge rise in the old folks' homes. Thank you, Pfizer.
Old folks' homes are a rampant sex path of pathogens, syphilis and gonorrhea.
Thank you, Pfizer.
It's like, Jesus, you've made these people very, very virile, apparently, and very promiscuous. You know, you can just go room to room at these places. I mean, Jesus.
It's like a dorm, just like college, university.
Right. Oh, well, we have friends who worked at these facilities, and they're like, it's absolutely true. It's horrific. It's horrific to walk in on loose skin like that. Anyway, back to COVID.
Yeah, knock first.
You never want to see that. A lot of loose skin melded together.
But you look at these numbers, and I was trying to track down some, and the problem you run into with some of the other stuff is it is hard to. So, they talk about this being a population correction, for example. It's actually not doing a great job of a population correction.
No, it's not.
From a numbers game, war does so much better. I think it was like 50 million people died.
Oh yeah, like it was
like World War II.
Stalin starved 20 million people. Like, come on.
Correct, right? Like the numbers, like those are population corrections.
Who is that? Ming or whatever, the one dynasty killed like 150 million people. Like, nobody talks about this dude in China. Just killed them. Like
Genghis Khan did a lot of murder, a lot of murder, a lot of rape.
Loved murdering. That was his thing. He loved it. He was very angry Mongolian. No, I don't think this is not a population correction at all. I think this is just it's a bug, and that goes off and dismisses some of the, hey, this is released to curtail the population. Now, mind you, I mean, but here we go with it's because the government now is giving us a vaccine, which is going to curtail. I mean, we would have seen. I took that vaccine 2 years, like when you were first eligible to get it. Well, I took it, and I'm still here, and I don't have any side effects. So
the 5G
could be the 5G. You're not wrong. I don't know. I think that there's always going to be conspiracies, right? Or the end of the world. That's the other one. There's always going to be an end of the world thing.
Let the horsemen ride. Now we should take a quick break, Phil.
Sure, let's
just
do
need
that.
to go off and get some water, and
sounds good.
We'll be back.
I will see you in a moment. And we're back. Wow, bathroom break. Powder my nose.
Agua.
That's vodka. Yeah, nice.
A little early for that.
A little early in the morning for vodka, but whatever. You do you.
You do you. So where were we? We were talking about horsemen riding. Yeah, conspiracies.
Horseback riding, shirtless.
Yeah, that's right.
What?
Wait a second. What?
Are we Vladimir Putin?
Vlad. Yeah. The idea of some of the conspiracies, how they've changed over the pandemic, right? So
because the old ones didn't work.
But some did, right? So the whole the Wuhan theory, for example, is still, I
don't even know if that's a conspiracy. That's just plain fucking common sense.
Well, I'm talking more the lab leak conspiracy versus we're pretty sure. I think everybody's agreed that it came from, like, it originated in Wuhan. Like,
well, we know it. Yeah, I mean, that's obvious. But I mean, I think that, when we go back to the Wuhan lab that they were working on coronavirus, the odds are the only virus place, like studying place in like fucking northern or southern China, whatever the fuck it is. Come on. I mean, someone fucked up and got sick and just spread it. Like we spread it to everybody else.
I still think the official line from the WHO is that Wuhan was the origin, but it's wet market. I think that's the official line. So
yeah, someone ate a bat. No, fuck that. It didn't jump. Has it jumped yet? Has it jumped from animals? I mean, it did.
Well, it did, and it has too. Like we've got deer with COVID, dogs with COVID, cats with COVID.
Yeah, but it hasn't like become like, I don't know. I think that it's pretty weak. I think somebody went and fucked up. I don't think that's a conspiracy. I think that's just human nature.
It seems like the most logical explanation, right? But that's an older one. So some of the other ones, like, and again, the pandemic one is still kind of the thing, right? So that's one thing that's the whole idea. But now the pandemic is the vaccination, right? So now that we've moved on to phase two
Yes.
of the evil plan.
Yes. The evil plan. The Trilateral Commission has approved, and
The
all of
WEF. The WEF.
oh my God, there's so many. I mean, obviously the Rockefellers are behind this. I mean, this is just totally tongue in cheek, but
And the Rand Corporation. Don't forget them.
the
They've
Rand,
got
yes, yeah, Halliburton and all the other. I mean, how it doesn't make any sense. You want to make more money, so kill more people. I don't know. That doesn't.
Well, so the whole idea of the vaccination as a seasonal booster thing is something that certainly will be a lot of money for our friends in the pharmaceutical company.
Not will be, is. It's a crazy amount of money. And now you've got like, other places that are manufacturing their own version of this. Like you have Russia that has their own version, China has their own version. Whether or not they work, it's like sugar water in Russia.
Well, like you were talking about with the China numbers, right?
Well, yeah, like it's China is an interesting study, and we saw what happens when you lock everybody down. And this is what they're dealing with right now, is that nobody's immune. Nobody has immunity because they were in such a communistic country, locked down beyond belief. Like the history books are going to write about how many people died of starvation in their own apartments. That's what's going to be 50 years from now. I think you're going to see that, there was so many people that just died, not from COVID, but from actual, starvation and what have you.
Yeah,
because they were locked in there's in concentration camps too. Like there's a lot of shit we don't see. Like,
well, and this comes back to the reporting, right? So we know we know we have reason to believe, and I say we meaning us, the educated, uneducated, unwashed masses, whatever you want to call us, to believe that the numbers, the numbers coming out of China, for example, are inaccurate. Okay?
Well,
right now, but they did lock down, like you said, they've locked down excessively. So that kind of reflects, okay. And now we're seeing protests, like outright protests, which is that level of protesting that's not Hong Kong is incredibly unusual in mainland China.
Oh my God. Well, that has to, but you know what? You can only push a people so far. We've seen that in every branch of history.
Yep.
You can only beat up your people so long before they say fuck you, or we're gonna this is not good, and that's what you're seeing, right? And but yeah, like the lockdowns didn't work. They didn't have any kind of production. They didn't want help from outside sources. They didn't want Moderna. They didn't want Pfizer.
It was Sinovac or something they were using, right?
Well, yeah, but they couldn't produce it. They couldn't mass produce it to any degree. We're seeing shortages around the world of.
We just threw out a bunch of our stuff.
Yeah, well, because it goes bad. It's a living fucking enzyme inside this fucking thing or some shit. I don't know how the mRNA works, or mRNA.
Magic.
It's magic in a little needle. But yeah, like these guys, like China, you have countries, some of the, did you read this about like what Norwegian countries, they did nothing. They said, fuck it.
Yep.
And you read so, and their numbers were, a lot of people got it, but on the flip side, they had the lowest death rates, no masking, no mandates.
So, and this is when we start teasing out the data, right? Yeah.
You go, well, now, again,
okay, their numbers. So I wouldn't say they
significantly smaller populations for sure.
I wouldn't say they had necessarily the lowest, but you would think if you did nothing.
You would have like staggeringly high numbers, but
it would be a graveyard. It would be a wasteland, a wasteland, but it's not.
It's like Stephen King's The Stand. It's like, correct. What the fuck?
But it wasn't. And that's
wasn't
the thing.
At all. No, the
only thing I can say about when it comes to lockdowns and that is and it was a knee-jerk fear response, but it gives countries with socialized healthcare like us, theoretically a chance
to prepare.
Unfortunately, as we saw, we didn't, and we're still in the same boat. Like, so now that everybody's getting sick, I mean, you hear about the RSV and COVID and
the other thing is that I think what it taught the healthcare system, if it taught, I think here's the problem. You have the doctors and the nurses who are on the front line, and all the other hospital staff. I don't want to discount them, because I mean, hospitals don't run without, maintenance crew and all the other support staff that go with them. Like, so there's it's always like the nurses, but then you and which I'm not discrediting that's top tier.
You're like the guy who says, I'm not racist, but
No, I think
going to say something racist.
When we look at it, there's still all the administration, like all the people that have to be in a hospital to make it function, right? So
Sure.
there's a lot, and so all these people are like, we know what we need to do. Like, here's the thing: you couldn't even get IV bags. Do you remember that? IV bags, because they're manufactured in one country.
Forget the ventilator problem. Right. Let's look
IV
at
bags.
Let's look at exactly. Let's look at IV bags. Let's look at these supply chain, which
Stanley, get the Ziplocs.
But you look at that. That's another example of when you talk about conspiracies.
Yeah.
That hey, if you wanted to destroy globalization,
it wouldn't be tough.
This is a good way to do it.
Well, and there was a time when countries would actually, manufacture their own equipment for most things, but because
they had to,
it became cheaper to source out to places like China. And here's all of the you invest, you and I both have little investments here and there, what we can afford. We're the nickel guys.
I've got a lot of stuff in emerging markets right now,
right? And a couple of the we're not obviously don't take what I say for anything more than comedy, but yeah, the emerging markets are actually Mexico and India right now. I mean, these are where you're going to see they're the new China. Like, people are not trusting that China can actually continue to produce what we need, and but
they've also started charging more. So this is the part
they have to. Here's the thing: you want standard of living. So here, I'm Chinese. I fucking want a living wage. I'm tired of being a slave for, what we would consider a pittance of a paycheck. Like, your kid's allowance is sometimes more than what some of these men and women are making, to manufacture dangerous fucking things. And that's the problem. And so you're going to see that what happens is inflation, right? So now we have to produce stuff in say India or Mexico or wherever in the world, Malaysia, and you're just going to see that just can the Malaysians
move to the next place to exploit.
It's and or you kind of go, okay, well, we're going to pay a little more, but we know that it's going to get produced and it's not necessarily.
We're going to bring it back and have robots do it.
And that's the other thing.
FYI, what might be a good topic later in the future, the whole idea of AI with the chat GP and the journey, art creation, and my dear Lord,
everything that's
so screwed.
The only thing that out of everything we've ever done that actually scares me a little bit is AI. It is the only, because I've dug a little deeper into AI, just read about all the things that they can do right now. And that means that there's so much more that we don't know about. It's terrifying. It's like, it's the stuff movies are made of. And you go, oh my God, if you watch movies that are 20 years old about AI that were frightening, we can do all of that now. All of it.
Watch 1984 if you want to talk about frightening.
Right.
And then you see the parallels between what's capable of happening now.
Yeah. I mean,
hey, a TV in your room that's looking at you. Wait a second.
We have
that's not possible. We got
it's in your pocket. Now. It's in your pocket.
Tracking your location. You don't have a chip.
Yeah,
anyway,
we don't know.
But we're getting off topic.
I digress.
So,
but back to China.
I have a good conspiracy theory, more recent about.
Oh, tell me.
So this one is interesting.
Okay.
This relates to the concept of vaccination and boosters, right? Which are always fun, right? And not you're getting microchips embedded in you. No, this is hey, the boosters and the vaccines destroy your immune system.
Right. Which Here's the correlation there that I see. I mean, and you can jump in here anywhere, but people are like, it's weird. The kids went back to school and we're all sick. And you're like, yeah, stupid. Because we haven't had to use our immune system in like 3 years. It's a long time.
And there's a lot of stuff circulating, and a lot of people are completely and utterly hugging and kissing now when they might not have done before.
Yeah, there you have a lot more social interact, but not just that. Like you have like I said, like schools, kids are getting, it's a fucking breeding ground for viruses. Like when our kids were real small, I mean, it was constantly 3 kids, someone sick all the time. It's like you're just like, oh my god, okay, we're covering our mouths, trying not to, don't fucking breathe on me. But yeah, like your immune system needs to be used to work.
Well, you're gonna, okay, so this is
right. How does it get better?
Yeah, but here's the worst part. We're kind of like dogs in the sense that we go off and we compare where we are now to where we were last year.
Yeah, for
or
sure.
The year before. So the last couple of years, you've had lockdowns, you've had masking, you've had
no one's getting sick. Well,
no one's getting sick. So, well, guess what? Of course, now that, so they talk about an immune debt, which I think is where your immunity debt, which is one of the more interesting ones. I don't know enough about it to really delve into.
I'm not what's the name of those guys? Immunology or
epidemiologists or something. Anyway, it's hilarious. There was a meme, and I wish I had it to put up, and it's like, I'm done being a epidemiologist, and it shows he's at a computer and it's an old guy, and he's like, he holds a copy. This week I'm going to be a foreign policy analyst.
We're all armchair experts at something, right?
Virologists and whatever now, right?
I have no expertise in anything. This is a statement from the Ordered Chaos podcast.
Do not
take anything we say as
not take any of it orally.
Health information. Sure. Do not, but no.
But one of the theories is, oh look, everybody's sick. You know what? Everybody's sick. Everybody's been vaccinated or boosted. Therefore, and it's a fairly simple logic, but that doesn't mean right.
Yeah. Well, both our boys got sick. It was a month ago, I guess now, and like really sick, like way sicker than what COVID they had when they had COVID. And so we tested them. We tested for COVID and all that other. It wasn't COVID, and like we're like, okay, they got a cold. We're just not used to it, right? Because nobody's been sick.
And we're also primed with fear. That's the other aspect, right?
Yeah. But how the human body evolves, and I'm no expert, but if you get a cold, you don't ever get that same cold back again, right? There's thousands of cold variants out there. So
we certainly won't expect the same effects because your system's recognized and primed. They can take it out before it becomes bad.
Everyone thinks that a cold is a cold. Well, no, cold is a particular type of virus. There's so many of them that we can't keep track of what is what. So it's, you got a cold, you got sniffles, you got a sore throat. Yeah, you got this one. I think if people dug into like the common cold and realized that if the common cold mutated into something terrifying, that would be a big deal. That would be a game changer on the world. Like the fucking.
Well, there are some bad influenzas that come around in like bad years where.
Yeah, absolutely. Where a lot of
severe
people
outcomes.
Die. Yeah, absolutely. So, but back to your thing about it. I mean, is it plausible? Not really. I don't think so.
This is the problem, right? First up, there isn't the data, but from what we've seen now, and this is the scare part, right? This is the frightening part.
For sure.
The technology that they're using for this is new, so we don't know 100%. We have ideas like this. I personally believe there hasn't been enough research done, but I also believe there's been more than none.
Well, if you look at let's take a look at AIDS patients. I mean, that's where immune systems collapse, right?
Correct.
So you look at where a common cold will kill an individual, it's a death sentence, right? So, and then you have them on this would be, if this statement was true, you would have so much death, especially in the old. I mean, unfathomable amounts of death. And so, because our immune system, but how the mRNA works is it's a protein. It's taking the proteins from the virus, and that's what's going into our body. So our body gets kind of used to it. So we are injecting, part of the spike,
it's not a live virus, but yeah, it's the whole idea that it's getting our body to. I don't know the exact details.
I don't know either. No,
getting
neither.
Your system
unless you're a scientist. Yeah, and that's what all vaccines do.
So
how would it destroy the very, thing that keeps us alive on this planet and has continued to keep us alive?
Look at our colonial background, friend. I mean, one of our best enemies or best allies it was
smallpox.
Exactly. Just the fact that we were living in cities, stepping on top of each other, and it turns out when we show up in
other places, that's right. It doesn't give your immune system a chance to. They've
never been exposed to it, and guess what? They're already living rough to begin with.
That's right.
So it's like it wipes through them.
Yeah, for sure. So that's a weak, and especially a child's immune system. A kid's immune system is a fucking juggernaut. I mean, that's why children
I think once they get to a certain age, I'm not sure exactly what the age range. I'm not sure like the golden age of immunity where their system is just it's like
you got to get sick, and that's why your kids are sick all the time, right? Like they're just, their bodies are just taking it in and fucking firing it out, and it's good. In fact, as a kid, I don't think I got sick very much as a kid. Come to think of it,
we were rural. It's a little, if anything, if we didn't get sick a lot. So generally you see a lot of sickness, the more people in one place, right? So it's major cities.
Right. Yeah.
You're in a small community. I mean,
I barely remember people being sick. And I have a fairly good memory about our childhood, our youth. And but at the same time, you went to my kids when they were in school, and then we would go to all different activities, and it's fuck. they're sick all the time. It's God damn, take your vitamins, don't touch that, don't lick that, wash your hands. As a parent, that's what you become.
Don't sweat the petty things, and don't pet the sweaty things.
You become the Mr. Wash Your Hands. It's did you wash your hands? You went pee, did you wash your hands? Did you wash your hands? But that's a great conspiracy. I mean, seriously, it's one of those things where you're
I just don't think it has like you said,
has no legs, but
I certainly don't think from it, and you have to look at the idea of was this is this the evil? So there's two variants of this, right? One is that it's mistake versus malice. So the mistake one is that because we're doing this, we're killing our immune systems. Go lick a doorknob and get sick, right? And then the other one is that no, this is part of the conspiracy of as a service. So everything's as a service now. Notice how you can't buy anything.
Yeah,
it's as a service, right?
Of course.
Well, imagine if your immune system was a service. Imagine if I would go off, and this is one of the premises of theory, so go off and force you to, you get vaccinated, and that destroys your immune system and replaces
so you
it
need
with
me.
This. So you need me, right? So that's the other. That's the other one, which again applies a level of sophistication that I don't know.
Yeah, it's maybe. What do I know? I mean, it just sounds a little too technical. How that a vaccine would affect everybody in the same way. What are the odds that they could figure that out? I mean,
or just enough to get increase their shareholders, right? I mean, this is what it plays into. So, have you ever heard of the generic conspiracist belief scale?
Yeah, you told me moments ago.
Okay. So some of the details about it. So this is fascinating. So for those who don't know, it's basically a way of trying to figure out, okay, how do people rate on a scale of whether, not a conspiracy theorist, and the next thing is your Mel Gibson with Julia Roberts, I think. So, right.
Oh, yeah. So, what was that show?
Conspiracy theory.
And he was right.
Well, yeah, but FYI, a broken watch is right twice per day too. But
you're not wrong. Yeah, that's true.
So it's based off. So they measure it on 5 things. One is your beliefs on government malfeasance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. your belief in malevolent global conspiracies, your belief in they call extraterrestrial cover-up, which is really specific.
That is very specific. Is Sam Squanch in there?
No, they don't say it about, so they
That's
don't,
not specific.
unless he's yeah. No, the next one is personal well-being, right?
Okay.
And control of information. So how you believe in these 5 areas, they mix them all together and say, here's where you're raised. Okay.
Right. Okay.
So
I don't know where I fall. I think I mean, we have it's funny because some people go, is it a conspiracy podcast? And I'm like, well, is it?
We talk about them.
Because I do find them interesting, and maybe this is something
fascinating.
I find
super
them
interesting.
I think they're great. I think that, but I'm more fascinated in the people that are like down the rabbit hole. I know that sounds crazy, but I absolutely love when I see somebody that's like so passionate about some of these things, and I go, what made you this passionate? Where did this, because my brain doesn't always go to that, right? Just like this immune system. I go, okay, that means that this was a giant plan from the beginning. And
we can't do light rail, for God's sakes, much less seriously. Right. We can't get a train system.
Have you seen the roads?
Giant plan. Yeah, I know that.
But it would have to be, right? It would have to have been, all right, we need to have, okay, what do we need to do, Jim? We need to have a terrible virus to infect everybody, and then we have to have a cure immediately that we know will destroy their immune system, so that we have to continue to give them this vaccine for the course of their life in order for them to stay alive. But we have to do it without them knowing, because guys and girls are going to say, no, I'm not doing it anymore, and then they're going to die.
Correct. And then all of a sudden the game is kind of up, right? The game would be up at that point, saying, well, what if they stop?
Well, booster rates are down like huge. It's like 3/4 of the people on the fucking planet are not getting boosters. So you tell me how many are dying.
We're into like 5th or 6th rounds of boosters here.
Or what
is it? What, a 5th shot?
Twice a year.
5th or 6th shot? Yeah, I know. I don't. I don't
no.
regularly get the flu shot. Now, my thought.
I don't either.
If you regularly got the flu shot, you know what? Why not get the booster? Fine.
Sure.
But
I believe that at this point in my life, my immune system is strong. I did get the shots because that was what everyone was supposed to do. I did what
and you literally had to. You literally had to.
Yeah,
so you might not have had to. I had to, because it's like, unless you get vaccinated, and this is, I really hated the mandate aspect. It's like, wait a second. But then you say, you give me the informed consent thing. It's like, I don't have a choice here. Sorry, I do have a choice. I can quit my job.
Right. Take away my livelihood.
I can do that.
I can starve.
That's my choice. Okay, thanks.
Right. And that, but I mean, I did it because I read the research on, the mRNA, and
I would have got it anyway. I'm the same with you. I did some research.
I would have got it. I thought it was great. The technology's been around for a long time.
It lasted 10 years, 15 years,
20,
something like that.
20 years.
It's been around for a bit.
Yeah.
Like
it was originally developed for the Zika virus, and we covered that in the, so, I said, okay, well, I believe vaccine. Look at polio. Look at all the things that we've got rid of. Yep. Mumps, rubella, like smallpox. The list goes on. So if you're an anti-vaxxer, you're a scary person, because we have eliminated enormous amounts of death. And maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe we shouldn't have, because we're overpopulating this planet. However, they do work. Regardless of what you think, and people are living longer than they ever fucking have. So your theories of like, well, there's higher incidence of autism now. Well, I have 2 autistic children, and I'll tell you, autism has been around forever. We just didn't have a name for it.
Yeah, we did. We called them weirdos. Yeah, actually,
remember Bobby? That guy's a little strange. He does not follow. He does not. He beats to the beat of his own drum. Yeah, that fella had autism, but we now have a name for it, and or a spectrum of
which sorts. Again, because it's a spectrum, it's not an on-off.
Yeah, you would meet my children and go, they're regular kids, and then you would go, yeah, live with them. They are different. They have their own unique way of looking at the world, and it's the same thing, right? Is it, the virus? This virus just happened. This doesn't make sense to me, but I love how when people like get into it, like 5G. That's the shit. That gave
Well, that's
me
right.
COVID.
Like we're rolling on 5G. COVID came out, right? It's a correlation does not
This is
mean
a
causality.
coincidence. Yeah, coincidence.
This is now, mind you, some of them are bad. Like for example, my mom
Mhm.
had 2 strokes after each of her shots.
Really? Like first shot, stroke, second shot, stroke. Yeah, I can understand you going, what the fuck?
Right now, mind you, it wasn't necessarily super tight. Now she's also 70s
She's also
smoker.
smoked since
Yeah,
I can like a lot.
but it's like, okay, you know what?
Mhm.
That's a
You're not
man's
wrong.
right there.
Yeah.
But is it a causal relationship? Who knows?
That's hard
It
to
certainly
say.
doesn't look. It certainly doesn't.
It looks terrible.
Good,
I'd be
right?
like,
It's not surprisingly, she didn't get her third.
yeah, I would just stay away from that. But yeah, that's the thing, is that you go, and that happens, right? Where is it a coincidence? Who knows? You don't, and I would certainly be like, if I was you, and I'm sure you did, like, a question, what the fuck is going on here?
Yep.
Like, why is my mother having strokes every time she has a booster?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you see stuff like that, and this is where a lot of the conspiracy theories delve in, is you see the correlation, but that doesn't necessarily mean causality. And like as we said earlier, I mean, the accepted wisdom is that it came from Wuhan, and I think
Sure.
WHO said it's a wet market, but that lab leak theory, I tell you, it still looks.
The WHO doesn't
good.
even have access to China. I mean,
well, okay,
they get to walk around with a little bit of an armed guard presence, and yeah, you're not from here, so you're not. Yeah, the Chinese have certainly kept a very closed sort of aspect to how this has went down, and like I said, the future will be probably where we go, whoa, that shit is crazy. Like, future generations are going to talk about this as like, China, what did you do? Yep. China will likely be a democracy at that point, or not exist. And
well, they're already kind of moving towards the
goes in tight.
They're already sort of moving towards that model of democracy, a Western democracy, not a Western democracy. Right?
It's strange because their birth rates are way down. Like, they've had.
I wonder why that is.
But even beyond the one child. So you're seeing.
You had a lot of dudes when you have one child. First off, you have one child, and if you want a boy or a girl, you're saying, well, I want a boy. Well, guess what?
As a cultural, yeah. Guess what? A lot of boys.
A lot of boys, not a lot of ladies.
Not a lot of ladies. So you are going to see this huge, because of that, a huge decline in their pop. Like,
I think India
they've got tons. They've got tons, but you got to look at this as a generational thing, right? You're going to have a lot of old men, single old men who cannot procreate. And it
won't be the Communist Party. It'll be the Sausage Party.
Yeah, right. It's a sausage party. But it's true. And I find that fascinating, is that you look at these places, like, you got 1 billion people. Okay, that's great. But like, one generation, you can wipe a lot of those out just by virtue of a death rate.
Well, I think India is now the new.
Oh my God, it's a superpower
as far as population.
But they have children. You can have as many children as you want, and in fact, it's encouraged.
Yes, unless they're girls, in which case you have to do something with them.
I believe they sell them. No, yes. I don't know.
Well,
there is that marriage sort of. Yeah, I don't.
Less the value of human life. It's funny when you see that. Not funny. It's sad.
It's sad. Yeah, like, you don't mean funny, haha. You mean funny, like, I'm gonna go cry in a corner. Funny.
Do we want to wrap things up, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've covered. I mean, life has, for me, pretty much gone back to normal. And when I say normal, I mean pre-COVID, what I used to do. I can do all the things I want, which is great. No more mandates. Yeah, as far as my concern for the future of COVID, I don't have overly big concerns.
I'm more worried about the big green comet hitting us. That's my current concern.
Oh, Jesus. Maybe that could be a topic later.
Well, what do we want? Speaking of which, what do we want to talk about next time? Do you have an idea?
No, well, you have a list. I think we're going to do a list. I think your list was fantastic. It kind of follows a trend of cool stuff.
Cool. So, okay. So we'll tell you what, how about this? This is just sort of pulling it out here.
Sure.
It's topical. Well, topical meaning it's in the news, and it's been in the news for the last couple of years. Little thing called the Ukraine war. But the topic is not the Ukraine war. It's the Wagner Group. Everybody's
the Wagner Group.
Favorite PMC.
That's right. And I don't know much about it because, I mean, I follow the war somewhat. I've watched a few things on it, and I get what's going on. But yeah, it'll be fun. I like learning new things. I like that. All right. Well, let's wrap it up. Well, thank you very much for watching the OC. I'm Phil. This is Corey, and we will see you next week for Ordered Chaos Podcast. Good night.
We're back, baby.
We're back, baby, with a vengeance.
Have a good one.
Good night.